self-joins. So self-joins, as I mentioned earlier, right, it allows us to create a hierarchical data structure, right, where it is the case when you have a field in a record referring to a field in the same table. Usually when you have foreign keys and primary keys, usually you have a foreign key in a record referring to a primary key that lives in another table, right? Where you might say, this is an actor, and these are all the movies where they acted, right? Typically you have the actor maybe having a foreign key pointing to the movie that they acted in, right? So the records live in two different tables. But here instead, what we're going to do is that we're going to have a primary key. In this case, will be ID. ID is a primary key. It's auto increment, not null. So that's a primary key. There it is. And then notice that we have the foreign key, right, having another field, which is referring to the same table, right? The primary key that lives in the same table. And oftentimes we document that in UML with a cycle where the table is referring to itself, right? Where you have something, you have the UML here, and you have the category, and then having a one-to-many like that, right? Which is saying that there is a record here that references many other records that are being referenced by many other records, right? And the way you would represent it is that if you have an employee 1, 2, 3, and somehow this is the manager of these two employees. Basically, each one of them has a foreign key, which is pointing to E1, right? Saying that who's your employer? Who do you report to? Oh, E1. So they both have references back to E1. Yes, right. So it's records that refer to each other. So this allows you to create infinite hierarchies where this might report to E4. Right, so basically you're creating this E4 that are being referenced by E1, E7, and E6, and then E2 and E3 are referencing E1. Right, so it allows you to create these references. And typically, if you are the CEO or the president, you don't report to anybody, or maybe the board or something, the board of directors or whatever, right? And then the foreign key is pointing to null. Right, I'm at the top of at the root of this hierarchy. So this self joins. So we're inserting several records. The top doesn't refer to anybody. You have electrical, movies, PCs, DVDs, Blu-rays. So we're creating these hierarchies, and then what we'd like to be able to do is say, well, I want to print out the hierarchy. Show me all the records, right, and who they belong to, what categories do they belong to. So typically you would want to be able to, you would need in the from clause, you would need to treat it, right, in the from clause you would need to treat it as if you have E1 lives here and E2 is referencing the other table, right? When you do the join, right, when you do the where clause, you have to say, well, I want those records, right, where this guy is equal to that guy, right, but in different tables. Right? But they actually live in the same table, so you would have to say from categories, comma, categories, which is ambiguous. Right? You say, wait, who? You're mentioning categories twice. If there were two tables, then there would be no ambiguity, right, where this is the parent, right, and this is the child. Then there's no ambiguity. It's the whose children foreign key is equal to the parent's primary key. But since they live in the same table, you have to mention it twice, categories and categories. But you can just rename them, right, by giving them names. Now they can be treated as if they were two different tables. Make sense? Right, very, very common for self-joins.